What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to get into a nice little trade target video, my favorite buys and sells for this week of the fantasy football season. We are now at week 10, which is pretty crazy. Once you get to the double-digit mark in the fantasy football season or just in the NFL season, it does get a little bit sad because, we're kind of on the other side now. Like week 9 is the midway point. We're now on the other side now. I will say, we have the playoffs and Super Bowl, so we still got a ton of football left to be played, but we're getting there. Now, if you've, been staying along this entire time, or you're a newcomer to this video, we post daily fantasy football videos. Now, I don't know why I said newcomer. If you're new to the channel, newcomer just seems a little bit cheesy, but regardless, we post fantasy football videos every single day on this channel to help you guys win your fantasy football leagues. So make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty bag.
So with these videos, we talk about my favorite trade targets, my 5 favorite trade targets. Some of them are going to be buys, some of them are going to be sells. First up, we're going to talk about my buys. And this guy is maybe my favorite buy right now. It kind of sucks because it just hit me how good this guy really is. And I think that maybe we're a little bit late to the party, but I think you'll understand where I'm coming from when I bring up who we're talking about here. And it's Marquise Brown. And I put on my notes here, this isn't a traditional buy low, but it also is. Because, yes, Marquise Brown just had a 20-point game. He's now, literally, if we look at the graphic here, wide receiver 6 in PPR. And here's the thing. People refuse to put the respect that he deserves on his name. Even I did. The guy was wide receiver 21 on Reddit's trade value chart last week. And even after a big game this week, the market still isn't going to adjust to Marquise Brown. He is now the wide receiver 7 in points per game with 18.8. He is wide receiver 9 in expected points per game, so the volume is there. And everyone wants to sleep on him because he's this small wide receiver. He's short. He's small. He's like 5'9", 170 pounds. He's just people just see him as like a one-dimensional deep threat. You know what I mean? He doesn't get that same love that a lot of these other wide receivers do. And I think it's because of his size, because of his role. The perception of Marquise Brown is that he is this small, speedy guy, which is why I'm saying right now, if we realize how good he's been, we can still buy for reasonable prices when he should probably be priced as a top 12 wide receiver. The volume is there, like I said, wide receiver 9 in expected points per game. He is 14th in the NFL in target share at a 24.9% target share, up there with guys like Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs. All of those guys are in that range. And people want to say, okay, Rashad Bateman's coming back from Marquise Brown's going to cool off. Here's the thing. I love Rashad Bateman. He was my wide receiver 2 in the draft. I loved Rashad Bateman. I still do love Rashad Bateman. But in the games that Rashad Bateman has played, in the last 2 games that he's played, Marquise Brown had 14 targets and 12 targets in those games. The 2 highest target totals he's had all season came with Rashad Bateman. And I don't think that Rashad Bateman's as much of a negative as people think. I think he's actually a positive for Marquise Brown and the entire passing game. Because what happens when you have, really good playmakers on your team, especially in the passing game, is it encourages your team to pass more. Because the Ravens have always been a historically run-first team. That's what happens when you have Lamar Jackson. You're just naturally going to want to run the ball more. But if you look at this is from weeks 6 through 9, chart by Hayden Winks. If you look here, I'm trying to squint a little bit, but I believe that so they're number 6 in neutral pass rate, which is just a team's pass rate in neutral games, in neutral game scripts where they don't have to pass the ball. They're not ahead. It's not the fourth quarter. It's not garbage time. It is just in neutral passing situations. How much are they passing the ball? And they're up there. And now you have them passing at a high rate. You have Lamar Jackson, who is a god at quarterback. The guy is literally a top 5 QB at this point. His pass. I don't want to hear anything about his ability to pass the football. He has looked amazing. He has now led 3 come from behind victories. I want to say 1 against the Chiefs, 1 against the Colts, 1 this week against the Vikings in overtime. He has looked great in all of them. Made great throws across the board. I don't want to hear anything else about Lamar can't throw. I'm not hearing it anymore about Lamar. And people forget. I'm not going to sit here and act like I bet on Hollywood all along, but like I said, I just sat down and really realized how much he's really done here. Like I said, wide receiver 7 in points per game this year. really good target share. He has Lamar Jackson tethered to him. He also now, he was the first wide receiver taken in a draft class with Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, and A.J. Brown. The first wide receiver taken in that draft class. First round pick. Even ahead of, N'Keal Harry didn't pan out, but he was a really good prospect coming into that draft. So Marquise Brown for me is somebody that if people are going to keep on disrespecting him, I see a lot of sentiment, they don't pass the ball enough. Rashad Bateman's is going to keep him away from being a wide receiver 1, which is crazy. He's been a wide receiver 1. I think you can now grab him for, fringe wide receiver 2 prices because people still don't want to put respect on his name. And that's a huge buy, especially because if you have one of these wide receivers at the top end where you can kind of now, arbitrage those points with guys like Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, who else is like really high up at the top, like a CeeDee Lamb, guys that are like perceived as like top 8 wide receivers rest of season. Now, guys I wouldn't downgrade from for, a Marquise Brown would be Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, probably end of list. And then you downgrade from, say, you downgrade from Stephon Diggs to Marquise Brown plus. Marquise Brown, I don't know, how much could you get on top of that if you downgrade from, let's say, Stephon Diggs? So you downgrade from Stephon Diggs for Marquise Brown. Maybe you could then get a Brandin Cooks for some depth. You could maybe get a running back like an Elijah Mitchell, like an Antonio Gibson. I also saw on the CBS trade value chart. Now, I bring this up every single time. The trade value chart is not perfect, but remember, this guy at CBS that made the trade value chart, he sat down, he made the list. He is getting paid a full-time salary, not me. So if you have any quarrels with the trade value chart, you can talk to him. But apparently you can trade Michael Pittman straight up for Marquise Brown. You can trade Robert Woods straight up for Marquise Brown. Now, don't get me wrong. You guys are going to say it. I respected Michael Pittman, but for me, he is a fringe top 24 guy. And that's where he's at on the season. He's like, somewhere like the 18 to like 20 in points per game, 22 in points per game. Marquise Brown is legitimately the wide receiver 7 in points per game, but he is perceived in the same way that Michael Pittman is, which is insanity to me. Now, that's my Marquise Brown rant for the day. I also want to say Marquise Brown, he moved up in my dynasty ranks. He moved up across the board. It clicked for me. I read some things on Twitter. I did some digging into his profile. He is balling out of his mind right now, and he is 24 years old. He's a third-year wide receiver. He is having, I wouldn't say definitively, but he's almost there. He's almost there at wide receiver 7. I would say Deebo's probably having a season like them, but the Calvin Ridley in 2020 and the Chris Godwin in 2019, those big year 3 breakouts, he's right on the cusp of that. I would say Deebo Samuel has had that so far, but Marquise Brown is right behind him. Then, I know that was pretty long, but I just really wanted to sit down and talk about Marquise Brown for a second here. Then we have Brandin Cooks. And I also like Brandin Cooks as a low-key buy candidate. And it's because, the Texans have that stink that comes with them. They're the Texans, the worst team ever. David Coley's just a head coach that doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. And now they're on buy. So I could easily see someone that, there's an owner out there with Brandin Cooks. They're frustrated with Brandin Cooks. They're frustrated with just, their team. Maybe they're losing. They need to, ship off one of the players that they can't use this week. And then you can go in there, you can buy Brandin Cooks low. And the reason why I'd be interested in buying Brandin Cooks is because I think that we got lucky that Tyrod Taylor didn't explode with him, because Tyrod Taylor is really good news for Brandin Cooks. If we look here, we have a 9-game sample with Tyrod Taylor, without Tyrod Taylor. With Tyrod Taylor, he averages 4 more points per game in PPR leagues. He averages 3 more targets, like 20 more receiving yards across the board. He plays a lot better with Tyrod Taylor. He gets more volume. He's more efficient. Tyrod Taylor's a way better quarterback than Davis Mills. Now, again, they changed quarterbacks this week. They played the Dolphins. He was supposed to have a big game, and the result wasn't there. He only had 6 catches for 56 yards. He put up 11.6 PPR points, so another dud. But if you look a little bit deeper, he saw 13 targets on the week. According to PFF's expected points model, he should have had 25.6 PPR points. He underperformed that by 14. Now, you're going to underperform your expected points per game in a bad offense like the Houston Texans, but the volume is there. You're not going to underperform things by 15 points every single week. That's not sustainable. So it should have probably been in like the 18 to 20 point, territory, but he underperformed that. It was Tyrod Taylor's first week back. Now he gets a bye to get healthy, get the rapport back, and the points will come. This is Brandin Cooks, who is getting a crazy, crazy target share. He is getting the 4th most targets in the league right now, the 4th highest target share. He's up there only behind Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, and Devontae Adams. And for me, what I would be looking to do is if you have, a need for running back or something like that, if you want to downgrade from a wide receiver to Brandin Cooks plus, I would do that all day. Apparently on the CBS trade value chart, you could go from like Mike Evans. You could downgrade from Mike Evans to Brandin Cooks and then go grab Antonio Gibson or Elijah Mitchell. Something like that, where you downgrade from a wide receiver 1 who isn't, again, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, or Devontae Adams. I forgot to mention Tyreek Hill earlier. Those 4 wide receivers, if you can downgrade from a Deebo, from a Mike Evans, from a CeeDee Lamb, those are probably the guys I'd be looking to do. Mike Evans, nothing against Mike Evans, but his target share isn't anything crazy. And when Antonio Brown comes back, I don't think that he is going to be as good as he is right now. So I think that those are both, decent ideas. But I like Brandin Cooks, which brings us to Saquon Barkley, my guy. And this is another guy that's on bye. Like Brandin Cooks, Saquon Barkley is on bye this week. And I got to believe that there's someone in one of your leagues out there that is down bad, down horrendous. I meant to say down horrendous. I don't know what down horrendous is. It sounds like a bad cop from like an NCIS type show, like Officer Horrendez. But regardless, we have Saquon Barkley, who someone's got to be down bad. Horrendous is what I was trying to say for a win. Maybe they're like, we're 9 weeks in. Maybe they're like 3-6. Maybe they're like 2-7. Yeah, probably like 3-6 is that sweet spot, because 4-5 isn't. It's only one game out of 500. It's not that bad, but 3-6 is down bad. Your running backs on bye. 3-7 is really bad. So if you can find if you go to your league right now, see if the Saquon Barkley owner is 3-6. If he's 3-6, send an offer, because he's on bye. He had a weird run with COVID. There's all this weird stuff going on with Saquon Barkley that I could see a Saquon owner kind of getting discouraged from. But he had that really gruesome ACL injury. Comes back, isn't really himself because he's getting eased into the workload. Then his final 2 games before getting hurt, he saw 2 back-to-back 20-point weeks, one of them being against an elite run defense in New Orleans. So he was back to his Saquon ways, then he gets hurt. So you are buying a little bit of the risk there. For sure, Saquon Barkley, you cannot just say, that guy, super healthy. He's always going to be dealing with some kind of injury. He's maybe too athletic for his own good. I want to say the injury he just sustained was an ankle injury. It shouldn't be too bad. And on top of that, it was more incidental after the play. But regardless, the reason that I really like Saquon is because of that 20-point per game potential, where we're looking for those legendary running backs. And Saquon's schedule is really, really light. After this Tampa Bay game, he's going to come back in Week 11, play in Tampa Bay. That's going to be tough. But after that, he has 5 straight games against bottom 12 teams and allowing fantasy points to opposing running backs. Really, really favorable matchup. Then he has the 15th, so like a neutral one in Week 17. I mean, those are really, really sexy matchups when you're trying to make that playoff push. The Eagles, the Dolphins, the Chargers, those are all really, really juicy matchups. And the reason why I really want to go for Saquon Barkley is because he is, in my opinion, he's one of these legendary running backs, right, where he can go 23-plus points per game. He's done it in the past. He did it as a rookie. He comes back that next year. He gets hurt. He came back in the playoffs his sophomore year, went on a tear in the playoff rounds, where he was actually a league winner that year. A lot of people forget that, but he was. Make sure you go check those game logs. He was sick. And to me, he's one of those few running backs that can have a tear like that. If he goes up against Chicago, Philadelphia, the Cowboys in those 3 playoff weeks, and he rattles off 25 plus points, one of them he just goes nuclear for like 35 plus points. He could be in that category of last year, where he could be the Alvin Kamara. He could have the Week 17 6 touchdown game. Saquon Barkley has that kind of thing in his range of outcomes. He can do that. He is one of those guys that can go toe-to-toe with somebody else's Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. So that's why I would really want Saquon Barkley. And one deal that I saw you could do on the trade value, or on the CBS trade value chart, is you could go from Ezekiel Elliott. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Ezekiel Elliott is fine. But a lot of these trade value charts have him valued as like a top 3 running back. I don't see him as a top 3 running back. I would move off of Zeke. Apparently, you can move off for Zeke and go get Saquon Barkley and Brandin Cooks. I would do that all day long. Now, a lot of you guys are going to come at me for saying, sell Zeke, all these guys, whatever. But you can downgrade from one of those, like, upper echelon guys. The only guy I wouldn't downgrade from are JT and Austin Eckler, but, even like a Dalvin Cook, if you want to downgrade from Dalvin Cook to Saquon Barkley and get a piece on top, like a piece that you really need. Maybe you're like weak at wide receiver, you're weak at tight end. If you want to go, I don't know if you could do this, but if you could go from like Zeke to Saquon and Darren Waller, if you could buy Darren Waller for that kind of price, I don't know. But just spitballing here. Then before we go to our sells, I have a couple bonus buys I just had on top of my head that I didn't write any notes for, but we have Mike Williams. And Mike Williams, I think you could probably buy for like fringe wide receiver 2 prices at this point. I want to say 4 out of his last 5 games, he hasn't performed very well. He's like under 5 points in all those. The thing is that he has Justin Herbert at quarterback. It's a really pass-heavy offense. I get that Keenan Allen is there, but there's enough volume to go around. And I don't know, it's tough for me because I was skeptical at first. I told you guys to sell Mike Williams, but now if we're going to get like fringe wide receiver 2 prices, I don't mind trying to get back in for the low because I do have a hard time believing that his first like stretch of games were entirely a fluke. The idea that, his A-dot comes down, now he's in this new X wide receiver role. They were playing better when they had Mike Williams in that X wide receiver role. Could be his knee is still giving him problems, so I would buy cautiously, but I'm open to the idea. And then one that I feel much more firmly about is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, stud talent, stud talent, stud talent. We know that A.J. Brown is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Now, he didn't perform on Sunday night when they beat the Rams, but he saw almost a career-high 42% target share, 11 targets when I think Ryan Tannehill only had like 27 attempts. I doubt that there's a dip, but if there's an owner out there that is shopping A.J. Brown, that saw Derrick Henry's gone, he can't perform at this point, jump on that all day long. He is a top 4 wide receiver rest of season at the very worst. Now, our first sell is going to be Deebo Samuel. Now, by the way, if you want to see all my rest of season rankings, I come out with that every single Wednesday. So when you guys are watching this, it's going to be Wednesday. So tonight I'll have out my rest of season rankings in Superflex leagues, PPR leagues, 0.5 PPR leagues, standard leagues across the board. And if you want, Deebo Samuel versus, Saquon Barkley on my rest of season rankings, I have my flex rankings so you can see all the positions, and I also have Superflex rankings. So everything that you could ever want are on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. It'll be in the description. It'll be down below in the comments. Make sure you guys go check that out. Now, with Deebo Samuel, I'm not saying to sell for pennies. I think a lot of you guys are going to be kind of shocked, maybe mad that I have Deebo Samuel listed here as a sell. But hear me out for a second. He is currently the wide receiver 4 in PPR. My whole premise here is he's been amazing. And he, like I said, he's actually the wide receiver 2 in points per game. And if you can sell him for a top 5 wide receiver price tag, I think that you should, because I think there's going to be owners out there that saw, Deebo Samuel didn't play well, let me go buy low. Here's the thing. I think that there's such an obsession with like buying low and selling high that people more so get fixated on buying low on a bad performance without actually paying a low price tag, if that makes sense. Like, Deebo didn't do well, let me go buy him, but they still pay market price, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Now, I know you will have some league mates that, try and lowball and like throw you like Emmanuel Sanders and a bag of chips for him. Again, I'm talking about more reasonable owners, but I think a lot of people get fixated on that. Now I got to go trade for Deebo Samuel, and they end up paying still a pretty high price on him. And it's not so much that what he's done has been concerning, right? He's the wide receiver 7 in expected points per game, the wide receiver 2 in points per game. He's second in target share at 31% target share. Him and Kupp are the only guys over 30%. That is extremely good. You don't just mess around and command 30% of the targets. You have to be an absolute dog for that. Now, my concern is that he falls to fringe wide receiver 1 territory, wide receiver 12 to like wide receiver 16 for a few reasons. And one is Kittle's health. Kittle's back, and Ayuk has been playing well. So he now has some competition. Remember those stretches where he was really, really hot, no Kittle or Ayuk. Now, I've always been someone, targets are earned, not given. Players aren't just going to command a huge target share without other players there. But in the case of Deebo Samuel, that is a little bit how it works when we're talking about a 30% target share, because he cannot sustain a 30% target share with George Kittle and Ayuk there. There's no way that happens. Now, I think he can still be like he did this week. He had a 23% target share. That's about right, and he's been really efficient. His yak is crazy. His yards per target is crazy. I want to say he's averaging like 16 yards per touch. So he has all of that efficiency to still be like a back-end wide receiver 1, but with Kittle and Ayuk both playing well, his target volume is not going to be in the 30% plus target share range. So that's what he would need for like a top 3 to 5 season. I think that it'll probably be in like the 20 to 25%, which will give him, a back-end wide receiver 1, top 15 type season, which is fine. But like I said, if you can sell for that top 5 price, I would. Now, this is a 1-game sample. But if we look at the entirety of Deebo Samuel's career, he is better without George Kittle. Now, this is excluding the 2021 explosion, because in 2021, Deebo Samuel has balled out without George Kittle. So if I included that in the splits, it'd be a little bit skewing because it'd just be like, okay, like obviously he's been better without Kittle because he's been better in 2021 as a whole. But this is his early career. So this is year 1 and year 2 with and without George Kittle. And you guys can see he averages like 4 more points per game without Kittle. So out of split means that there's no Kittle. In split means that there is Kittle. With Kittle, he sees like half the targets, less than 4 points per game less, half the targets, like half the receiving yards. He plays better without George Kittle in the lineup. I think the same can be said that I don't think that Ayuk playing, like kind of really picking things up here, helps him that much either. Now, obviously, I'm not saying, I want to just say this very clearly. He is still going to perform. He is still going to be a top 15 wide receiver rest of season for me. I think Deebo Samuel is also a really talented player, but now we are adding George Kittle and Ayuk into the mix. Ayuk has always been there, but now Ayuk is finally playing well. And we have Jimmy G, who hasn't been playing amazing. If they pull him, they bring in the rookie quarterback. I'm not sure a rookie quarterback can, sustain all 3 of them. I'm not sure a rookie quarterback can even sustain a top 5 wide receiver. I haven't done the research on that, but a rookie sustaining a top 5 wide receiver would be really tough. And on top of that, even on another red flag for Deebo Samuel is that he's been dealing with a calf injury. He's never finished a season healthy. He hasn't missed any time this year, and it'd be pretty lucky if he played a full 17-game season. He has never been, even back to college, he missed time. So just when we're looking at a calf injury, we're looking at the new weapons coming in. If you can downgrade from a Deebo Samuel and you can sell for a top 5 price tag, right? The same type of price tag. If you can trade him 1-for-1 for Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, I would do that all day. If you can downgrade from Deebo to Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, or Deontay Johnson, 3 guys I think are going to be extremely similar in terms of production as him, and get a piece on top of that, maybe a DJ Moore, a Brandin Cooks, a Darren Waller, an Antonio Gibson, an Elijah Mitchell. If you can even go up from that and get somebody else like a Leonard Fournette, or get creative with it. But if you can downgrade from him to Marquise, Keenan Allen, Deontay in a piece, or you can downgrade, or you can just trade him straight up for a top 5 wide receiver, something like that, I would be doing that all day long. Like I said, Deebo Samuel, I still think is going to be like in that 12 to 18 wide receiver range. But if I can sell him for what he's been doing this season, he's the wide receiver 2 in points per game. You might be able to still sell him, even though he had a down week. You might be able to still sell him for top 5 wide receiver prices, which brings us to our last player of the day. A lot of you guys are going to get triggered by this, but it's Melvin Gordon. Let me get a little quick water break. It's hot down here. I think your boy might be coming. I don't know if I'm coming down with something, but throat's definitely a little bit raspy, or not raspy. I don't know. I feel like I got a little bit of a sore throat. But the last one on this list is going to be Melvin Gordon as a sell. And Melvin Gordon had a huge day on Sunday. He had 17.5 points in PPR leagues. He had 21 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. He saw 24 opportunities to Javonte Williams, 17. So I think there's going to be a ton of boomers out there that, or let me be a little bit nicer than that. There's going to be a ton of people out there that love Javonte Williams. The boomers out there, the old heads that are like, okay, Melvin Gordon, he's really good. He should be starting over Javonte Williams all the time. The guys that love to have zero fun in fantasy. They love to say Melvin Gordon is still good. Here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. Melvin Gordon hasn't been bad. I thought Melvin Gordon might have been like a shell of himself. He has not hit that Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley cliff yet. He is still firmly like a top 20 running back talent. He is still pretty good. The problem is that if you have someone in your league that is thin at running back, sees Melvin Gordon as a nice fill-in at RB2, is one of those guys that likes Melvin Gordon a lot and like goes to battle for him and says, keep Javonte on the bench. Melvin Gordon is fine. He's doing his thing out there. Then I would sell him to that guy because in my opinion, fine, Gordon has been okay. I think he averaged like 3-something yards per carry. Again, yards per carry isn't a great stat, but again, it can be used in the same situation. He had 21 carries for 80 yards. Javonte Williams had 17 carries for 111 yards. He grades out better. Missed tackles forced per attempt, rushing yards over expected, all that good stuff. And I don't see how he maintains a 1A role in this offense. And even if you do, I also don't see game scripts where the Broncos have 38 attempts to go around. They killed the Cowboys this game. They ran the ball a ton. So to say that, Melvin Gordon could keep on doing that is kind of crazy for me because I only see his workload declining rest of season. And I don't think we're going to see games where each of these running backs can have 15 plus carries in a single game. Melvin Gordon hasn't been super efficient. He has scored a bunch of touchdowns. He's kind of gotten lucky in the touchdown department. But again, if I could sell Melvin Gordon to someone that likes that that likes Melvin Gordon, thinks that he is, a steady running back moving forward, I would. He can be sold for, or you can trade him away on CBS. You can trade away Melvin Gordon and some waiver wire fodder, somebody like a Tim Patrick. Melvin Gordon and Tim Patrick. You can go get an Elijah Mitchell. You can go to Brandin Cooks. Melvin Gordon and I think of other like waiver wire guys, and like Melvin Gordon and like Devonta Freeman. You can go do that for like Elijah Mitchell or Brandin Cooks. Again, I'm just saying that Melvin Gordon is a tough bet to make. I think for me, he'd probably be outside the top like 30-something running backs rest of season, 35 running backs rest of season. I think there are some guys out there that would see his performance that he just put up, 80 yards, a touchdown, 17.5 points, and say, you know what, that's a guy that he can fill in at RB2 for me as like a fringe RB2. I disagree because I think Javonte Williams is really going to push for more opportunities, and I don't think they're going to have games with this much volume. I also think another trade that you could do that I saw is like Melvin Gordon and either Chase Claypool or Emmanuel Sanders, go get a Hollywood Brown. So Melvin Gordon and a piece for Hollywood Brown. I would try and do that all day long. Now, that's going to do it for us today. I know a lot of you guys aren't going to be happy about that Melvin Gordon take. If you have Melvin Gordon, feel free to hold on to him for dear life and hope that he, rides you into a championship. I don't think that he has that in his range of outcomes, which is why I'm saying to sell him. Now, that's going to do it for us today, fellas. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you go down below, leave a like, and subscribe. Make sure you join the Patreon if you want to see my rest of season rankings, my weekly rankings, my waiver wire article, all that good stuff, all on the Patreon. Now, I also wanted to talk to you guys, just you and me for a second. If you've made it this far in the video, I consider you a tier 1 subscriber, fan of the channel. Hopefully, you're subscribed. But if you're watching me talk right now, after the season, right? So after week 17, I plan on slowing things down for maybe like a few weeks, maybe a month, where I maybe post, anywhere from like 1 to 4 times a week, just, taking a break for myself, hanging out. Now, during that span, we have week 18, we have the playoffs, we have the Super Bowl. Not a lot to talk about. I'm also not really a huge sports betting guy, so I'll probably maybe like do my top 10 lessons learned I'll probably still do like my observations where I can talk about, the rookies, Rashad Bateman, what he's doing in the playoffs, what a lot of these rookies are doing in the playoffs, kind of just observations for fantasy, all that stuff. But I would say, so this is the Ron Stewart channel, right? I'm always going to do fantasy football on this channel, but I know a lot of you guys out there, there's probably a lot of overlap, or a lot of you guys out there, I'm 20 years old, so I know these guys on YouTube that probably watch like MMG and Bangle and those kinds of like Madden YouTubers, right? And I think it would be fun to do a little bit of a crossover to Madden. Now, obviously, it wouldn't even be the main focus of the channel, but I think it would be fun during the offseason, during that dead month, pretty much that dead space between Super Bowl, or pretty much the dead space between like week 17 and Combine, where I would be down to do some gaming content. Now, I know you guys like football. I play a lot of Madden. I play a lot of NCAA. I think it'd be fun to start up like a series maybe during that time, because I would actually enjoy recording those videos even during my break, sitting down playing video games. I definitely want to stream with you guys playing some video games. I also, let me know what you guys would want to see, because I could do like an NCAA thing. We could do some NCAA where I do maybe like a dynasty. I could do a Madden franchise. I could just mess around and play Ultimate Team. I'm decent at Madden, but let me know what you guys would want to see. I'm thinking about that because I think it'd be fun to experiment with that, see how you guys like it, and then maybe from, not in season, like right now, like in the heart of the football season, I'll always do football content, but outside of that, I think it'd be fun to do, like maybe we do like dynasty content in the off season. Maybe 1 or 2 videos a week would be gaming or like Madden videos. Now, just some thoughts I had. Let me know what you guys think about messing around. Like this channel would never become a full gaming channel. I'd probably make a side channel for that, but this is the Ron Stewart channel. I know that some guys out there that do sports, I know like Ercolano does like vlogs and stuff. Now, I'm not like a big vlog guy, like carrying the camera around, but I think it'd be cool to have a nice, like, and he does those like maybe like once or twice a week, maybe sometimes not even once a week, but I think it'd be fun to incorporate like gaming style videos, like MMG, Bangle style videos where we could do like franchise, we could do Ultimate Team. I don't know. Fun videos like that. Now, that's going to do it for us today, fellas. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice. Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoena from Mr. Me.